What's up? Shout out to Neutral Voices Media Group. Hey, y'all, we need to
bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots.
Your voice matters.
Big shout out to Neutral Voices for.
I'd like to give a shout out to Neutral Voices.
Neutral Voices podcast.
Your voice matters.
Your voice matters.
America's opportunity.
Neutral Voices Media Group. Your voice matters.
Welcome. This is Voice of the People, and we have a voice in the house tonight. We have a guest with us tonight. Now, some of you might be familiar with him, seeing him in public, but we're going to hear his voice tonight. So it's myself and Miss Jill, and then we're going to let our guest introduce himself. Mr. Zeke, tell the people who you are.
My name is Zeke Bryant, and I am a Fort Wayne Southeast native.
Yes. Welcome.
Good to have you.
Oh, no, thank you for coming. Now, Zeke, as I spoke, people probably are familiar with you because they see you, and we're just going to briefly get into that. Most of us know you from the Impact Center or anything like that.
Correct.
Just give us a brief breakdown or tell us what the Impact Center is and what it does.
So the Southeast Side advocate right now is the Impact Center. We are community outreach for the Southeast community. We provide programs and partnerships, basically anything to uplift the Southeast community. That's what the Impact Center does. We have programs for supporting infants and their mothers and mortality. We partner with Cancer Services to provide resources and classes for parents, as well as on Mondays, we provide a Food Truck Mondays. Everyone says the Southeast is a food desert, so I do Food Truck Mondays on Mondays for people to take a break from cooking and come out and get some good food.
Oh, that's good. Now, I am familiar with the Impact Center because I've been there a few times with Joe Ayers, and he holds his health fair there, I think, once a month on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really a good environment, and it gives a lot of education, and it's used for many different things. Now, for people that's not aware or not familiar with it, where is the Impact Center located?
The Impact Center is located on 3420 East Paulding Road in Fort Wayne, just east of the Save-A-Lot.
Okay. And that's on the campus of New Covenant, correct?
It's connected, and it's all under the umbrella of New Covenant Worship Center.
That's cool. But not only the Impact Center, you have a lot going on. We had a discussion, and I want to talk about some things that you brought to light that I think needs to be mentioned in our community or highlighted more in our community because we don't know about these things. One of the things you told me about was the Real Talk. And that's through Fort Wayne Community Schools?
Actually, Real Talk is through City Life and Youth for Christ. Yeah.
Okay.
So we, on the guy side, there'll be two of us, and we talk to high school kids on their lunch about life. And there's also a girl component where someone comes in and talk to them every Tuesday morning.
Okay. Now, we used to talk about life because we were talking about some things, and we're going to tell you what we talked about yesterday. But when you talk about life and they can discuss life, is there any subject that's off limits or anything that you don't touch or don't talk about?
Everything's on the table. Whatever the kids want to talk about today. So we kind of have an agenda that we want to talk about, but it's really prompting for the kids to talk about what they're going through at that current time in their lives and help them through the process.
Is there a common problem you see right now?
Common problem is confidence, I would say. A lot of these kids took 2 years off because of COVID, and now they're back in the school. They literally have security blankets. You see kids walk around with blankets around themselves. Wayne's is one of the schools that they are test piloting, taking their cell phones away from them. So that was kind of an issue. But to me, in my opinion, those are, security blankets for them to kind of hold on to and makes them feel, open in public. I think a lot of them are really uncomfortable in public. And then that also morphs into picking up things such as drugs and other bad habits to just, cope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, now that's interesting. You said they're taking their cell phones away?
Yes.
That's the livelihood of most teenagers now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So how are they surviving, or how's this program managing that, they're taking their cell phones away?
From what I've seen, I think it pretty much mellowed out. From what I've seen, the process is they come in and they put it in some bank-type envelope, and it has a lock on there, kind of like you see on clothes in the store. And then, so put it in there, and it's locked, and then the kids can hold onto their bag, but when they leave, they push it on a thing like at the counter at the
Right.
store, and then it opens up and they get their cell phone back.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
What do you see since you deal with the youth often? I know there are a lot of issues plaguing the youth all over the place, but as far as on a local level, if you could speak on, or if you could choose one, what would you say the top issue that is plaguing our youth right now? If you had to think of drugs, violence, health, what would be at the very top right now, currently for us?
I think, of course, it's drugs.
Right.
It's more acceptable. I mean, I think every generation will say, "Hey, well, marijuana was acceptable at a certain time, and then
Right.
LSD."
Yeah.
But I think in this generation, it's popular to do those.
Almost
For example,
normalized.
I grew up in the '80s and '90s. It was bad to do crack, but now these days they rebrand it to be Molly's or Percocets or any of these designer drugs, but that's the same drug. It's still in there. And so it's fine to snort something or pop a pill. When, like I said, back when I was growing up, it's just like, no, you're just not going to do that. No one made a song about, hey, I smoke crack.
Yeah.
Right.
But now people are always talking about they pop
Exactly.
pills.
We talked about that
Yes.
last night. We actually spoke about drug addiction, and not really. We touched on a local level a little bit, but overall, and something that we brought up was how, because I also grew up. I graduated in the '90s from high school, so just like you said, there were certain things like marijuana was the worst thing that I could ever do. That was on the top of the list. That was going to get me in trouble and grounded and this and that. But they were not singing about drugs and glamorizing like they are now. It wasn't in your face with TikTok, with Facebook and Perk and this and all these names. So the fact that you said drugs is top of the list, it kind of ties into exactly what we were speaking on last night.
Well, one is I'm a music person because and when they said that, it's more explicit to what they're talking about because they use the actual language. But Mary Jane by Rick James.
Yeah. Well, we know all. Yeah. We know
Puff
all
the
of
Magic
that.
Dragon was not about. So I'm just saying there are always things that's going in. But what I want to talk about and what you hit on it as well. When we were growing up, they didn't have songs. We had the anti. It was Dare. It was Just Say No. It was all of that. Where now it is, like you say, it's more acceptable because we spoke last night. The DEA is even thinking about reclassifying marijuana. In Oregon, they're actually talking about like psychotropic, like mushrooms and things like that. So yes, it's becoming more acceptable and it's not being problematic, but it is really being problematic, and our kids are being more accessed, and our kids have more access to things that we didn't. The internet gives them access quickly to, we had encyclopedias, and we were always in Fort Wayne a month or two behind, if anything, or maybe even a whole season behind before anything hit. But I think everything is hitting in real time now, and I think that's an issue with our children because they're immersed in a whole lot of things they shouldn't be.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's where you were talking about, it can lead to drugs, it can lead to depression. And I'm going to be honest, I know some kids that look up things on the internet and then they, like WebMD. You look up something on WebMD or you have a problem on WebMD, and I know you probably come across it, but they get these problems when they get it off the internet. Well, I saw somebody on the internet that have this, so I got to have this. So, is that, do you see that?
Yeah, I see that. I just had the conversation with a friend of mine just earlier today. I graduated from high school in '98, and I remember the internet was just starting to take off. But now kids have so much information in front of them, and it's inaccurate. They believe it's on Google, it's the truth. And then they see other people doing certain things, and they get fame from it, and so they try it as well.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of them fall at. And I think a lot of it, and to answer your question also, I think a close second is mental health.
Yeah, that was my next.
Yeah, it's mental health because all that ties together. Once you try to say make it the way people are on Instagram and other social media, and you don't make it like they make it, it turns into mental issues, and then it's always a snowball. From the 40s to 50s to 60s to even now, the issues that had plagued the community, they still go on, but it's a snowball, and then it's just hitting our kids now. So it was taboo to talk about mental health when I was growing up.
Right.
But now it's more open, it's going to be resourceful to them, but they're still getting hit by the whole snowball that we had.
Yeah.
Right.
So they may not have the resources. We didn't have the resources, so they may think they don't have the resources, but we would pick ourselves back up. But youth these days, they stay down past the 7 count. They
So
give
true.
up easily.
Yeah,
They
very
really give up
true.
easily.
Yeah. That's so true. Now, you have another organization that you spoke of that I was amazed with, and I really want to get into this one because I think this is something that we should talk about. It's called the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I'm actually on the board for this organization, and I really love it. They basically are in various schools to teach Jesus to athletes. They have something called huddles where they go in. It's kind of like a more modern Bible study for athletes. And it can be various sports. They can go in for softball, football, baseball, or whatever. And there's a huddle coach that they have a book that they go through with them, basically like a Bible study, more for youth. And they go in, they pray with them, they go through these things, and they're very active in schools, kind of like other organizations. But I got involved because it's been around for, it's probably 40 years or more.
Oh, really?
And when I was in sports, I never heard about it. I didn't hear about it until 2008 when I was working an event, and they brought in Clark Kellogg to be the speaker. And so my mission is to have that in more inner city schools because I think it's a very powerful tool to lead people to Jesus.
Yeah. Well, with that, how do you get it in schools? Because there's a separation between church and state. Because I remember, and I'm going to tell my age, but you remember that blue trailer. Y'all might be a little younger than
I had that.
You
the
had a little
Bible
blue
study,
trailer
yeah.
that was on the corner. You can have it.
Yeah.
So with that, and they took that away because, there were so many various religions and things such as that. They didn't want to single out. So how does that work present day with getting that in school systems?
I think it's more of an after-school program. I'm not sure on the legalities of that, but I know it's after school, and there's no funding from the school system.
Okay.
If FCA has to raise the funds themselves, and that person that's in the school, being that huddle coach, they kind of have to raise their own salary. So
Okay.
I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that's how it can be in the schools because there's no school funding that's attached to it.
All right. Now, what is the reception you get from this program?
So it's very popular in all the rural schools that they're in. We just had a donor event. We brought Daryl Strawberry in a couple of months ago at the convention portion of the Coliseum. It was a packed house. People love it. They really accept it. It's blowing up so much that they now have a few different travel baseball teams. And just this spring, they just released a travel track club as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I miss those days. Go ahead, Jill. You had
How
a
does
question?
someone get involved in that? I mean, is that marketed? Because you said it's a separate entity and program from the school. So if somebody wants more information about that program, how would they go about getting that?
Just Google search Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Northeast Indiana, and it'll come up.
Okay.
Or I know they're going to show my information on screen. Someone can email me, and I can be happy to forward them the information.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Now, you do a lot of various different things throughout the community. You're a coach as well.
Yes.
You coach
Yes.
Metro?
So, I am a Metro youth football coach for the Summit City Cardinals.
Okay. Now, Metro's been around for at least 50.
Yep, we celebrate 50 years.
At least 50 years, yeah. So, now, I play Metro, and sometimes I am, and I'm going to be transparent, I am overly critical on Metro.
Yes.
The reason being, and you can help me being an insider, the reason being, in the 50 years, we've heard folklore, we've seen different things, but Metro, I think, should be an entity that is greater than what it is right now.
That's correct.
And
That's correct.
I bear witness that it's from the community and some of the organizational things that's going. How can we as a community support, make Metro what it is or what it's supposed to be? I mean, across the board, because it should be. We shouldn't be going to these out of community things when we have Metro here.
Yeah.
But how do we make Metro what it should be?
I think with it being 50 years, I'm not 50 years old, But around that time, it was really like, hey, very possessive. This is my thing. This is my organization, not wanting input. And Metro is very open to input. And I believe the community needs to help Metro on a professional level. Whether if you're a lawyer and you want to give back to the community, get involved with Metro so you can help figure out legalities and contracts and things of that nature. Or if you're in culinary or cooking something like that, get involved and come up with a health plan for kids and the coaches. Just like that, just being involved on that professional level, because Metro has a ton of volunteers that, okay, I love kids, or I'm in it for the wrong reason, and then that's just what Metro has to work with.
Yeah.
But they need more than coaches to help out.
Right.
So right now they have a great board and committee. Some of the people are younger than the pioneers of the club,
Right.
and they're bringing in a different voice and a different angle. And I think we're going to have a really great season because of the new people and new blood that's come in.
That's good. Now, do they still have the participation from the youth and the families for Metro?
Yes. So we always have record numbers, and that hasn't changed. We do lose kids to PAL, or I think Carroll has a league now. So it really is a race and a tug to keep our kids in Metro or in an urban setting. We switched our league to start in June. That kind of helped out because PAL starts later in August. I'm not sure when the Carroll League start. It may be at the same time, but that at least helped that we didn't want to compete with school ball.
Right.
So you can play in the summer, and then there's just like literally a week or two that they overlap because we feel it's important to